What's up? This is What's Up, Doc. I guess this is going to be the first attempt at a show here. Try a new commentary we're going to try to bring to you guys and, see how this works out so we can convey some useful information to help people digest a lot of these social issues we got here.
To catch a thief who stole the soul I prayed to keep. Insomniac, bad dreams got me losing sleep. I'm dead tired, my mind playing tricks, deceit. A face in the glass, unable to admit defeat. All that I am.
What's up is a lot of the social issues that are out there that are just kind of being glazed over. So what I'm trying to do is just bring an original yet common sense approach to addressing a lot of socially relevant issues and giving a different perspective on it than what you may get, say, from traditional media or from the information that's just out there and available. Just kind of give us, like I said, some more dimension and more perspective. So hopefully people can get a better rounded view of what's going on.
Okay. What qualifies you, or what qualifies you to speak on such issues? Do you have any degrees or certificates behind it?
Well, first of all, as far as I qualify myself to be credible, to be knowledgeable, and to be informative about any issues I choose to address. I don't necessarily take this situation lightly. I do try to make everything I do and all my assessments to be as factually based as possible. So as far as that's concerned, I say as far as certificates and degrees and things of those nature, those are just academic titles that are bestowed on individuals, say by colleges or universities, and nowadays by these trade schools to individuals who complete some course of study, so that they have something to signify that they obtained a certain amount of knowledge is disseminated by this particular course or establishment. Me, I think I'm just I'm an overall student of life. So my university would be the universe. So what I study life and all that encompasses. So ultimately, if I was to try to obtain some type of degree, it would be a master's degree in all I survey. I don't think I'd be isolated to any given subject matter or whatever the case may be. So therefore, I stand to be a more rounded individual. And then secondly, I think that naturally I'm endowed with a reasonable amount of intelligence that allows me to consistently take a common sense approach to critically evaluate basically any given subject in order to formulate what I consider to be viable theories and conclusions and hypotheses, because they're based on facts as they're available. And I'm not twisting facts to suit my own personal theories, but building off facts as they present themselves in order to come to these conclusions. What I'm attempting to do is just play my part in trying to stave off this rising tide of ignorance.
I have the information to share with you. I mean, do you have anything to back up, not just saying that I'm credible because I researched the information?
Well, in that instance, I'm not necessarily trying to disseminate to people and give them their opinions about different things. When it comes to like me referencing certain resources, if there's a particular subject or if I'm putting out some statistical data, then I may reference that particular source for that data that I'm utilizing in whatever hypothesis or conclusion that I'm coming to. But in terms of what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to change the conversation. If a person is more than welcome to challenge anything I say, there is going to be some opinion-based stuff, because these are conclusions that I've come through based on my assessments and my experiences and my interpretation of information. So I'm not necessarily trying to impress that upon somebody else. I'm not trying to make somebody think as if the way I think. All I'm doing is trying to give a different perspective. What I'm trying to do is, what I was going to allude to earlier, is just adhere or honor the call for all people who have reasonable amount of intelligence to play their part in attempting to raise the collective IQ of the planet. I mean, nobody can argue that, as a whole, society has been systematically dumbed down. there's been a quantum drop in the collective IQ of the planet, and it's just systematically getting worse. So I'm just attempting to apply some critical thinking on some socially relevant issues and maybe just change the conversation a little bit, because we live in an information age. That's an advantage and a disadvantage, because you have an abundant amount of information being disseminated to people, to the population, but a lot of that information, for one, is not being effectively communicated. A lot of the information is useless. It's just garbage, and what you're doing is you're just clouding people's minds up, and like they say, garbage in, garbage out. What's wrong with the kids, because they're getting a lot of frivolous information that has no substantive application to it. It's just useless information, and they're clouding their brains up with it. What to do is try to weed through some of this information, this information sensory overload, this bombardment we're getting, and bring out relevant or socially relevant issues and kind of highlight those a little bit, and then, like I said, expand upon them, because a lot of times what we get is one-dimensional views of a particular subject, and people think that that's all that the subject encompasses, and they're just looking at it from one angle, because as a society, people are trained to obtain a certain level of consciousness and what they call an understanding, because they always ask you, do you understand? So to understand something is the first initial level of perceiving something, but it's also the most inferior perspective that you can have. And most people are only taught to obtain that inferior perspective, because as long as you stand under something, you have an obstructive view of it and a limited view of it, and you can only see certain aspects of it, and you can never fully appreciate it. But until you gain what I consider to be an overstanding, and you're allowed to hover above a situation and look down on it, then you can kind of see it in the simplicity. Just trying to elevate the overall consciousness of people, and hopefully show them that, with this systematic dumbing down and watering down of information, that the population on the planet is being degraded to a point where they're incapable of critical thinking, and they're being manipulated in a lot of different levels, in terms of even, like from a common sense perspective. It's unfortunate that what people say common sense is it's just not so common anymore, and a lot of people that do have reasonable amount of intelligence, since they lack common sense, they're no better off than the individual who has common sense and don't have any intelligence, because these are key components that go together. And once you have a good foundation of common sense and a reasonable amount of intelligence, and that you can continuously reapply these different lessons and methods of dealing with situations, then you can, over time, in the application of these two, you can gradually grow to be wise. But the way society is now, everybody's fast tracking everybody. People that have very good common sense, they think they're wise and they think they're intelligent. Those are two different things. And people who have book smart that are intelligent, they automatically assume that they're wise, and they think they have common sense, when a lot of times they don't, and they can't function. And this is where there's a disconnect, I think, with the information that's being disseminated upon people, because people haven't taken time to really critically think and evaluate everything in its fullest perspective, and they just have a limited view on stuff.
Right.
Kind of dark in here. Can't see anything.
I'm just trying to play my part in possibly assisting people with some different information and just sharing some different views. And if I can stimulate some critical thinking, then I think that a lot of what I'm attempting to do is going to be accomplished. Now, as far as my ability to bridge that gap, and that's what happens a lot of times, there's some type of frequency change between, say for instance, some of the information that's being disseminated to people, because like I said, there's large volumes of information, but the amount of it that's being effectively assimilated is where the problem comes in. And that's the same as, like, say for instance, if you took a multivitamin, you go into a grocery store, or health food store, there's just a countless number of multivitamins on the shelf.
Plenty to choose from.
Exactly, but they all seem to have the same type of percentages and values in terms of the different nutrients and things that they make available to you. But what distinguishes a lot of them is, and that people are not aware of, is that these vitamins, they're formulated differently. So, and one vitamin might have a different bioavailability, meaning an absorption rate that's different from another. So the average multivitamin, a person who takes these vitamins and they're looking at these high values of nutrients that are available that exceed, 100% of whatever the recommended amounts are, in all actuality, their body's only absorbing about 10% of that. So that makes the effective absorption rate on that extremely poor and weak. So essentially you're pissing away 90% of your money that you spend on these vitamins because you're not getting the benefit of it. And that's the same thing with a lot of this information. The way that it's being communicated to people is lost on people. Like you said, with the expensive words, or whether it's the tone, the frequency, the way it's being delivered. So I'm just hopefully can change that frequency up a little bit to make it a little bit more assimilatable for people. I just want the bioavailability of the information that I'm attempting to communicate to somebody, or the opinion or the perspective or whatever it may be, to be put out in a way where the average person can assimilate much more larger quantities of this information than they're currently. See, because we by no means are in a situation where there's a lack of information, but there's a lack of effectively communicated information. That's where the disconnect comes in.